Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Mike Zaremba and you're listening to another episode of Vancouver Real. Thanks for joining us today. And with me, as usual, when I'm in town, is Andy.
It's good to have you back behind the mic.
I know you've been carrying the torch, the flag, solo for many episodes now. So thank you for that.
It's been fun. We've had lots of great guests on, and
is it more fun without me?
It's becoming more of a skill now because I have to work the cameras and speak into the mic and interview all at the same time and control everything, which it's actually not that bad once you get used to it.
Right. Yeah. You probably go into a flow state and just
I was
make
completely
it happen.
in flow. I don't even know what happened. I don't remember the conversations at all. They just kind of, and then I'm done a podcast and I have to listen to it afterwards,
Right.
which is kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And as per usual, we're podcasting here from Float House at 70 West Cordova Street in downtown Vancouver, BC. Floathouse.ca is our website, so check that out. We are just wrapping up the Float Challenge, so it's a cool promo we did this month of July. And it's been an awesome success. Like the amount of people we've had coming in, it's been so cool to see everyone re-engaged and invigorated with their float practice. So it's been refreshing. I like it. Do you want to give a shout out to LRA and the London?
Yeah, the
Reel?
London Reel Academy. Thank you very much for listening, guys. And as usual, big thank you to Candace White for helping us out. She's our community manager. And a big thanks to Brian Rose and Julian, actually, because they set up last week. We had a group of LRA members come in, London Reel Academy, to Float House to experience their first float. And it was kind of cool because Brian sent out an email specifically to people in BC who were part of the LRA. Nice. And they showed up randomly on a Friday night, and I walked them through their first float experience, which was kind of fun. Yeah. So thank you very much for setting that up, guys.
Very cool. And lastly, we'll give a shout out to Omega Point YouTube channel. Omid is our brother from behind the scenes with Vancouver Real, and he's got a really cool YouTube channel called Omega Point. He makes these videos collaborating Alan Watts, Dialogue, and Graham Hancock.
Terrence McKenna. Many cool speakers, and orators.
Very philosophical oriented kind of videos, and they're awesome.
He's going to be a little upset, I think.
Why?
Because Megan's here.
Right. You know Omid. I think he's tried to contact you. He wants to do a video of you.
He does like really cool videos and stuff. And he's been wanting to have, he's like, if she ever comes back, tell me. And I'm
right.
Oh, shoot.
And I totally forgot to do that.
Well,
sorry, Omid.
I'm here for 2 more days, 3 more.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can let him know.
Yeah, we can just rip off a quickie.
Yeah. There you go. So Omega Point on YouTube, check it out. And if you want to try floating, use the promo code RECOVER and you can save 20% off single float. Because we're going to get into today's podcast. Because who was that voice? That mystery voice?
She's back.
She's back in town for a limited time. Meghan Currie.
And you can see I have the aerial cam on right now because she's wiggly.
Oh, no. You're going to pick up on my wiggles.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Because
I'm so wiggly.
You're a professional mover, basically.
Right.
Right.
That's part of what you do.
I guess, yes. Mm-hmm. Move professionally.
Right.
Like a professional.
And for those of you who don't yet know who Meghan Currie is, you're a yoga teacher. You teach yoga all over the world. Andy and I were first introduced to you when you taught here in Vancouver for several years.
230 power flow. Shout out.
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
And 530 powers.
Right. We killed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of exploded online and you were gone.
And
that was it. Yeah. But anyways, welcome to Vancouver Real. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really, really love what you guys are doing. And as I watch you guys talk to each other, it kind of breaks my heart. You guys are so sweet.
Oh, you know.
You really love each other.
We're by force. When you come out of the same womb, it's like the universe is like, you have to love this person. A
lot of brothers don't get along though, for whatever reason, and we've been forced to get along because we're business partners here.
Right. But there must have been some choice in that.
Yes, there's always choice.
Yeah, and we get along. We get along for the most part really well now. We very rarely have tiffs that last longer than like an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, and that happens pretty infrequently now.
That's good.
Yeah,
we know how to work with each other. We're past the kind of I don't know, the awkward stages of being a business partner / brother. We kind of got that hammered out.
Right.
Probably
Yeah.
did that in a lot of it in jiu-jitsu, actually.
Yeah.
Hammered each
We-
other.
we did.
Basically,
Yeah.
It's like we got out all of our like
Yeah.
teenage
amazing.
aggression
All
of
that
like
monkey
frustration.
energy got dispersed.
That is amazing. That was
Yeah.
a very good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
but yeah, we work well together. So
enough about us.
Enough about
You're not
us.
trying to flip this table.
I'm
You
gonna
said you're
get
going to.
you.
she's doing it already.
I know.
No, it worked.
Well, I got to say, you were probably one of my third or fourth yoga teachers ever. And I didn't know what I was walking into when I actually went to your class for the first time. And I got to say, like, back then, your classes were hardcore. They were like, you would just like, it was great though. I loved it. It was like, it was amazing because you can go through so much discomfort and pain, good pain. And by the end of 90 minutes, you felt really good. You know?
I was just jiu-jitsuing my shit out on you guys.
You were jiu-jitsu yoga.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu.
And you would just blast our core. I remember, like, it was, 2008, 2009, 2010, through those years when you were around Vancouver, you'd show up to Megan's class. You're like, okay, you're hydrated. You've had a meal a couple hours before. Like, you're ready to go. Like, these
Yeah, you have to
classes
prepare,
were.
or else you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
I mean,
And that was kind of your style.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what got you so popular in the city, I think, because you became more or less a yoga celebrity in Vancouver,
okay.
right? And people would show up to your class. Like, people would be packed. Every class you go to at 5:30, 2:30,
Sure.
they would be completely full, 60 people, 50 people in the class, whatever, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
you just murdered them.
you did.
Slaughter them.
Yeah.
And they
Take 'em
kept
down.
coming back
Yeah.
every time.
I was like, thought if I cranked it up a little more,
Right. You were trying to weed out the herd, but they just
Yeah.
kept like,
they kept getting
you
stronger.
made them junkies, endorphin junkies
Exactly.
or something.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope I didn't do that.
No. Has that always been like your style? Is just like that kind of blasting, like, I don't know. Is that just what you do? Is that just how you practice?
I guess I don't consider it to be what the description is from your perception. So I wouldn't say that that's my style, just to blast, and
No, okay.
to go so hard till, but I can definitely see how that's the effects upon other people.
Mm-hmm.
It is my practice. My practice now has slowed down a lot more. It was, I think that it was a little bit faster back in the day.
Right.
And it's evolved in many ways. But I am about experiencing intensity, and not just intensity through holding intense postures or doing physical things that create intensity, but any kind of intensity that you experience in your life, to experience it is as intensely as you can in order to become fully aware of it and therefore work through it or dissolve it or wherever the energy needs to go to let it mobilize and move. So the intensity part, as far as what you're referring to, definitely that's what
Right.
And I have to say, like, it was enjoyable. And I think that's why people kept coming back over and over and over, right? And there's so much to that, what you just said, around becoming comfortable in uncomfortable situations and realizing it's okay that my core is absolutely screaming at me right now. And you can keep going. And by the end, you're going to feel amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is by the end, you've just overcome something. So you feel even more amazing because there's these points where you're like, I don't think I'm going to make it. Or you're like, fuck this bitch. She's crazy.
It's true.
And by the end, it all kind of like dissolves and flips. And you're like, and I did it. And wow, those feelings that I was feeling that I didn't think I'd be able to survive through, I more than survived through them. And so it's like uplifting and expansive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing a really tough class when people will, like, they just bail on the class and they can't take it anymore, right? I mean, it happens once in a while still at Yaletown at the 5:30 classes when it gets super, super hot. Some people are just like, oh, fuck.
Can't do it. Yeah. Well, like one of my first teachers, he owned Yaletown Yoga before it turned into Y Yoga, Steve Merkley. And he was strict, and I really looked up to him, and he was my teacher. So and the teachers there were all trained the same. You didn't leave the room. And so we didn't leave the room.
Yeah.
And I would have like what felt like full-blown panic attacks, and I didn't want to be in there, and it was hard for me even just to get to yoga because I had such extreme anxiety and fear all the time. But I wasn't allowed to leave the room. And so we worked through our stuff, and that community grew super strong. And the teachers that are now teachers but were then students are really powerful teachers from that time.
Cool.
And I think in a large part it comes from that foundation of like the discipline of not leaving the room. You stay and you feel your shit and you look at it and you experience it, and then you go through it and it gives way to another porthole, and then you go through that porthole and it gives way to another layer of your being.
I think that's...
So I was going to ask, who were some of the teachers that were that came from that original group?
The original group, Lawrence Millman is one of them. He's not here anymore. He was in, he went to Russia, and he was in Russia for a couple years.
Okay.
I just saw him in Toronto, so he's one of them. Brandy, she's another one.
Yeah.
My brain, I think, is farting right now.
Oh, that's okay.
No worries.
Yeah. And that kind of gets into a little bit what I want to talk about. And you've taken yoga to a completely different place. And like, if you go online and you see Meghan's videos on YouTube or your website, what's your website?
It's just MeghanCurrieYoga.com.
MeghanCurrieYoga.com.
MEGHNCURRIE.
Got it.
MEGHNCURRIE.
Meghan.
Say it 3 times fast. Meghan Currie.
Yeah.
Yeah, your videos, I wonder if that kind of helped launch your career, actually, because you were putting up these YouTube videos back then, and you start seeing them go up to like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 views. And did that really help get your name out there?
I think totally. I think that's kind of what did it. And and then it just went.
Yeah.
Was there one video in particular that you will go back and see like that one just kind of went viral and really started people connecting with me? And which one was that?
Yeah, I think the Mad Love one. That was one of the first. It was one of the first ones I did on a beach.
Right.
And,
with the sand and the waves, and it was in fast motion.
With the artist song,
right.
Dr. Toast, the song Light.
And was that all self-produced?
Yeah, all the videos are self-produced.
Cool.
I went to film school. And well, not film, but a digital film program, just a real short one. Mm-hmm. And I'm really passionate about making little movies. Yeah. So I just started to make the movies myself.
Very cool.
Before the movies, before you became a teacher, how long ago did you start actually practicing yoga?
I practiced the physical part. So I started my first class. I was 19, and prior to that, I met a man at a market when I was really young, and he gave me his meditation tapes and his meditation book. And that was more of my introduction to that deeper work, to the meditation and to the visualization and to the breath work. And he gave me my very first yoga book, which is Autobiography of a Yogi. But it was too thick for me to even look at.
Yeah, it's a beast.
At that time, yeah. But that was a really powerful moment for me. It really stuck with me, this man who gave me all of these things that he created. And that was my first introduction before the physical.
Cool. Before the physical.
Yeah.
So, okay. And has that, I guess this is kind of an obvious question, but I guess that's completely altered your life trajectory. You know,
which has?
Well, I guess introduction to the meditation and the philosophical side and the spiritual practice of yoga.
The spiritual and the physical practice have both kind of altered my whole being. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to chime into when you were talking about the intensity and feeling like not necessarily just the physical intensity, but the intensity that you can bring to every moment by awareness. And like just kind of bringing that, like you said, experiencing any moment as fully as possible and that level of intensity, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the transformational power of what yoga is. And that's something that I think it takes some people a little bit of time probably when they're first starting a yoga practice to start to realize that you're not just exercising here, really. There's some really deeper work, like you're saying, when you got to stay in the room and face your discomfort to go through that transformational process, right? So have you found like it to be more of a transformation than plateau, or is it just like a constant evolution kind of thing with you?
I'm aware now at this point in my life that it is a constant evolution. So even in those times where it feels more like a plateau, I can feel into the more subtle layers of myself and feel the transformations always happening. Whereas before, when I wasn't as tuned into the subtle aspects of life, I would just feel the plateau because I was more unconscious to the different layers that were existing and collaborating within me. So that's the two stages. Yeah.
And like your lifestyle now, like you seem to be, all over the world at different times. You've been doing this for a long time now too, like many, many years. You've been kind of just at different spots for several months and then moving on or whatever. And is that I assume that's continuing? That's how you are today?
Today,
Or are you settling anywhere at all? Or are you're still kind of just going around?
I'm going where I'm taken.
Called, yeah.
I'm listening,
Yeah.
I'm just always listening. And wherever I'm taken or asked to go, I go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean necessarily externally, like the phone call or like the email, come here. I mean inside. So
Cool.
If there's the feeling of yes, then I go. And if there's a feeling of no, then I don't go. As far as the traveling all the time, I've gone through different layers of that and learned about what it is to burn out.
Yeah.
And so, but I love the process because even those times of burnout or time that everything comes along with the burnout, even in those dark times, still aware of the fact that I'm being schooled, like I'm learning. I'm in what I like to think of as like the highest form of education, which is constantly moment to moment being gifted to me to expand. And in those moments of contraction is where we then, after or as a repercussion, expand the most. So I've been bouncing around a lot and learned about burnout, and therefore I have altered or learned how to balance my schedule. So right now it feels really good.
Cool.
And I've decided to take a whole month off in August, and I'm extremely excited. Like my whole body vibrates when I think about it.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm going to Bali.
Awesome.
And I rented a house in Bali, and it's overlooking the jungle. And I'm just going to bring a suitcase of books, and I'm going to get a canvas and paints and bring instruments, and I just want to play.
Yeah.
I just want to create, because that's one aspect that needs a little bit more. I think it just needs some more time on the earth rather than up, down, up, down, up, down, because it takes a while to catch up from all the flights. I feel like,
right.
Yeah, I leave like little imprints of myself all around the world, and then I have to settle somewhere for a while for them all to like remagnetize into me. So I'm taking more breaks for the rest of this year. I canceled one thing, so I have a whole another month. And then 2017 is also my year for study. And so I'm changing things up a little bit. But it's because, again, like I'm getting called to something speaking super loudly to me saying, you might alter the way things are altering a little bit. I'm not sure how, but they are.
Cool.
You mean go practice somewhere else? Learn from a different teacher, perhaps?
Sorry, say that again.
Learn from a different teacher? Or...
learn from people,
Yeah.
learn from online courses, learn from whatever, take courses, learn. But also there's something else. I feel pregnant, like feel like I'm getting knocked up, not with babies.
Okay. But with like...
But something.
I was going to say congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes, say congratulations.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
So it's that pregnant feeling. You guys know that feeling. It's a
I think so.
Pregnancy.
I was going to say
When you
from
have
a creative standpoint of like incubation, for example, when we were in the incubation periods of Float House, that was a very I never really kind of correlated to like a pregnancy, but definitely correlated to like feeling like an artist in that we are creating this thing that's going to be an experiential place for people to come in, and we're designing how we want it to feel, and like when people walk in the door and what they see and what they smell, and then how their interactions unfold with our with the hosts who are hosting their floats, all those elements, all those variables. We talked about it ad nauseum. It was like, that's all we talked about.
And then you wrestled, and then you talked,
and we grappled.
and then you beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah. And we hugged it out, and then we floated.
That's a good balance of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's so true though. Like you get to really, I never thought of myself as like a creative artistic person until I did that sort of experience. And like, Oh man, of course. You don't have to be just a traditional artist of visual arts or music or whatever to be an artist
Totally.
or creative. Like
Yeah.
everyone's creative.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
I'm so passionate about what you're talking about. That's what
Cool.
this whole workshop I go teach is all about.
Yeah.
Just that it's in how, when we really tune into the intensity of this moment, like when I zero in right now, my whole body is vibrating. You guys are vibrating. We're all vibrating.
It's true.
But it's like when we let ourselves really tune into that, then we're tapping into like a pure type of creative potential. It doesn't manifest. It doesn't need to manifest as a song or as a painting. It manifests in how we look at each other. Like it's that simple. It's how we connect to each other and how we look at plants and how we breathe air and experience this life.
That's the thing. There's so much going on all the time. It's so rich. Like the life experience, the living experience is incredibly rich.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time because we get people that go for a float and they come out like, I was bored. And we can't really say much about it, but it's just like, are you kidding me? Why are you bored? Like you're alive. You're alive. You're breathing. You're feeling. You have thoughts. You have emotions. There's so much going on.
Well, boredom is actually interesting because it is just another distraction. So it's just something to kind of distract from feeling.
So from pulling you away from what's actually happening.
Yeah, and then it's almost like an excuse. I'm bored.
I'm bored. I'm going to leave now.
But it's not really boredom. Like so that's like the capsule, like the outer layer of an actual really profound and full experience for them. But it's so intense, that experience, that it's hard to experience if you have never let yourself sink into your own self. So we can encapsulate things with boredom, but it's not really that they're bored.
Like you said, how important it is to actually stay in the class and just go through the process, right? When people ask me, what's some tips before their first float, I'll always just say, just stay in to the very end of your float, right? No matter what, because you're going to get urges. You're going to have times when you're bored. You're going to have urges, I got to get out and got to go do something else throughout my day. Those are the times when you've booked that 90 minutes for yourself, and there's nothing else for you to do. So why are you thinking you have to be somewhere else?
Right.
And that's such a powerful teaching, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, what are we avoiding?
Yeah.
Like every second of the day, we're avoiding something.
Right. Yeah.
Never stops.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. It's just like every opportunity, every moment is an opportunity to experience and to learn and to be with whatever's there, and it doesn't mean it's always going to be, it's not about like always necessarily seeking out bliss or happiness or all that kind of stuff. It's just being with whatever there is, whatever's present, be with that. And that's the experience.
So going into maybe a little bit why you do what you do, is it simply because that you're being called to do your work, called to be a yoga teacher, to play, to do art? Are you just saying that this is what I want, this is what my soul is telling me, whatever it happens to be, and you're just following that? Or do you have kind of your own personal and higher mission that you're trying to fulfill?
That's a great question. I don't have a personal higher mission per se, as I'm not determined to collect anything at the finish line necessarily, or I don't have like a list of goals, like a 10-year plan. But I do get visions, and in the visions there is like a feeling that comes with the vision, and I check into that, or it checks into me every once in a while. And I essentially just follow that. So it's not so easy necessarily to describe whether it's like my soul pulling me in one direction or,
That's a really hard word. I mean, I had to use a word other than just like what you're thinking about, right? It's just something that's calling to you to do what you're doing. And
there was a moment when before I began to teach yoga, I was quite addicted to things. I was addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to cigarettes. I was addicted to men. I was addicted to everything, like pretty much everything, as a distraction because I could not handle myself. I couldn't handle being alone. I was terrified to feel any of my own stuff because it was so intense. And it had been intense for about 15 years of my life. And so I initially kind of got into the whole experience. Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Okay.
We record, and that's the nice thing about podcasts.
Okay.
There's no.
I just got like a
Scratchy.
I just got a like a.
Do you want to get her some water?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Because it was a really good rant. I was like, oh, I'm really getting into the story.
I know. Maybe I just felt. Okay. So I just continue.
Yeah.
Keep going. It's all good.
So I was kind of smothering all of my fears, let's say, or coping with them with running away, with distracting myself and numbing myself and essentially destroying myself. And I was so addicted to the darkness. I was so addicted to it. I was still creating art. I was painting, but there was this thing about the darkness that I loved. So if anybody at this time, I was still doing yoga and practicing yoga, but I was having like binge health and binge darkness. So I was binging all over the place. I was amazing at binging. My pendulum was wild. It never stopped in the middle.
Gotcha.
It went through the middle really fast and then it went to the other side.
Like, oh, here I am. I like it here. I don't.
But certain terminology in the yogic kind of communities, certain words I remember would make me cringe. I just couldn't handle at that time certain positivity. I didn't like positivity. I was so addicted to my own darkness, to my own story.
Yeah, it was like a denial that it even existed. Like it's like I don't believe in like that positivity exists, or what was it kind of that was so repulsive about those things?
Or you're like, that's just bullshit. What are you talking about? Like,
I'm not sure exactly if it was that or that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just scared. I think I was just scared. I felt like I was so dark and there was something so wrong with me that maybe I didn't deserve it, you know? So I was just like trying to kill myself essentially. And I was doing a really good job. And I had many interventions from people telling me to go to therapy. And my first therapy session, I went, but I was high. And, you know, I was a complete train wreck. I'd like to say I was a beautiful train wreck.
Right.
But I don't think it was beautiful.
Right.
People were stepping in. So there came a point, and I say there was a day, but there wasn't just one day. It did, you know, lead up to this day. And after this day, I still did have relapses and struggles. But there was a day where I was like, fuck, what do you want? And I just like threw my hands up like this, and I was like, fine, take me, like you can have me, do whatever you want with me, I give up. And I was just done. I was done trying because I was trying so hard. But in trying so hard, I was pushing myself so hard up into a corner that I was forcing myself, in a sense, to break down in all these different ways, and then turn to things to help me cope.
Trying so hard to do what?
I feel like I was trying so hard to quit all the things I was addicted to, for example. That's one. Trying so hard to succeed. I was trying so hard to succeed. I wanted so badly to just, you know, do good, let's say. Trying so hard, and that's why the binging. So, you know, because I was trying so hard to be healthy, so hard that I was so disciplined and saying no to all the things. And then as soon as I had like a drop of alcohol, all of that relaxed, and I went all the way to the other side and fell off the wagon, and my autopilot took over, and she's a crazy bitch. She's pretty fun, but also a crazy bitch. So now she's fun. I like her. We have fun because she doesn't knock me out in the cockpit anymore. We can drive the airplane together. Yeah. I have her on board.
So now you're in the cockpit.
I'm with her because now I'm embracing my darkness. For example, today I had a moment where I got angry, and instead of like trying to deny the anger, or you push it away or whatever, I just allowed myself to feel it, and then I watched, you know, all the guilt that comes in for having these feelings or these thoughts, and then just let it all, and like, okay, whew. Rather than, you know, if there's any type of pushing this stuff away, it then leads to more things that push things away. So that's what the addictions are for. It's things that push other things away, such as an emotion, just like anger that's totally normal. So now it's like we're flying the plane together, you know, instead of there being some kind of hardship in my life, and she knocks me out and takes over, and we get drunk and end up in a ditch.
It happens. We've all been there.
Of course. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's
I have.
we all have these.
I fell down a
You're
ravine.
there right now.
No, not right now. I'm good. But at Nile University, I fell down a ravine. I just laid there for a while. It was the winter. I'm like, pretty comfortable right now.
Actually,
Yeah, I'm just
actually,
under
this isn't that bad.
No.
But then there was the moment where I was like, what do you want? Fine. And it was that crossroads. And it was then that everything changed. Everything changed. I became a whole new person. Not to say I still don't have my same patterns and always new patterns that are exposing themselves. This year was a really hard year for me. And I've had lots of really humbling, super fucking humbling things come up that have been hard to look at. And I had to, be like, wow, okay. But everything changed. And
it's that kind of surrender.
Total surrender. It's just surrender. And so it's not necessarily one or both or of the things that you asked at the beginning. I think it's not necessarily one or the other. I think that it's a collaboration of a whole bunch of things, but then it was initiated with me just giving up, pushing so hard.
Yeah.
And
well, I can totally relate to that for sure. I had an experience here actually. We were doing psilocybin mushrooms actually, and I was dealing with some stuff in my life that has been there for a long time now, and it's been there for years, and it's something that's not necessarily going to change. And when I was in that journey, I had actually up until this point, I was having a really tough time. I was agonizing. I felt like I was literally on the brink of insanity, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Right.
And one of the guys, it might have been Daniel, kind of came up to me and he just put his hand on my shoulder. Do you know Daniel Shaw, yoga teacher?
Yes.
Yeah, Daniel. And he came up to me and he just put his hand on my shoulder, and I can't remember what he said, but that's when I had a true, real moment of surrender, just surrender to exactly what is right now. And as soon as I did that, the weight completely dropped off. And I just I'm like, yeah, I don't have to carry that around. Even though it's part of my life and it's not going to change, I don't have to let it weigh me down so much, Yeah. So I can get where you're coming from with that.
Right. Totally.
Another good place to practice is when I'm driving. Driving in Vancouver, oh my God, it's so frustrating.
When you get frustrated, yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I'll do now is, really work on not having a knee-jerk reaction to somebody if they cut you off or they won't let you in or whatever they're doing, and just be like, it's okay. Just put on the brake a little bit, let them go in, let them do their thing, you know, and just observe it as opposed to reacting right away.
Right.
And sometimes I still react too, but at least I'm consciously looking for that moment when I could have a knee-jerk reaction that would be positive, and I can just, instead of reacting, just observe it and be like, okay, yeah, you're pissed off right now because of what that guy did, and it's okay, and 30 seconds later, it's over.
It goes away.
Yeah.
It just washes off, and and when you do react, the same thing, just to feel that reaction as deeply as possible, and not beat yourself up over it, then it washes away too, and then slowly it starts to repattern the way that you just basically relate to everything. Because everything then becomes a relationship, like a communication, just like a relationship with another human being.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why a lot of indigenous populations of the First Nations, they have that term, to all my relations. And they're not just talking about your person relationships. They're talking about what's your relationship to the sun? What's your relationship to the food that you eat? What's your relationship to literally everything? And, it's just, it's so, it can be overwhelming at times. Be like, wow, I have to fucking consider everything and everything I think. And you do your best. But I think that surrendering that you're talking about is accepting okay, I'm going to try. I'll always try in my life, but am I going to, you're going to fault. You're going to drop, you're going to sink, you're going to trip and, make mistakes or whatever. And that's so completely self-defined as well. There's no book of life. There's no rule book. There's no laws or anything like that. So it's just there are on some levels, but you know what I mean, right?
Then nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
Totally.
And this shit is crazy.
It is. It's so crazy, but it's amazing.
It's so, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
here we
crazy,
are.
man.
Yeah, and that's
God,
good.
this shit is so
I think it's
nuts.
so cool to have these types of conversations and have this out there because nobody knows what the hell's going on. And like people want to think we know. We have these cities, we have these societies, we got economies. Fucking bullshit. And we're trying, but it's just like there's so much more, and like that's why we do Float House. We want people to go inside and have an experience that might crack them open. That's why we do what we do.
And that kind of led me a little bit into what I was getting at before about potentially a mission, something you'd like to see changed in the world, perhaps. And I've heard it said before that sometimes our pain becomes our greatest gift to the world. And maybe from your past experience, you can alter the course of somebody else's life because you can say, hey, you can mentor somebody, guide them, and show them a different way. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're asking if that's my mission?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm asking a question or just saying something.
Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely
nice,
can help people to navigate their psyche woven through the landscape of their body, like their body mind landscape, and help people to navigate that. Yeah. And I am a very sensitive person, so I can like tune into whatever thought vibration, not listening to thoughts, but like a vibration in their body and help them to become aware of it and then help them to learn how to work with it rather than to cage it up or sweep it away or whatever it is that their mechanism or coping mechanism is that automatically fires. So that is definitely a gift.
So when you're teaching some like a workshop or you're watching, so you can actually see when someone's like even doing like a physical asana, you can see potentially where they're having how certain vibrations are or frequencies or whatever, and you can identify that and help them with it. Like, can you kind of give us an example of that, maybe?
Yeah, an example would be, let's say someone is in a forward fold with their hands on the ground, and let's say they're prepping to go up into a handstand. I can see the anxieties or the thought formations that are generating sensations, generating emotions within the body mind, and I can often feel what they're feeling. So I'll know where to shift their perspective to, and just give them like something to do in order to release those thought formations that are generating sensations within their body mind, or release the sensation so that kind of unlatches the thought formations. Like it goes both ways. So that's kind of how I can identify things. That's a simple example, but it doesn't have to be in a pose. It could be just like sitting with somebody and we're like, okay, and we start the conversation, but only if I'm asked to do it, then I'll do it. But otherwise I don't.
Yeah, I definitely. So you don't just do it in class unless somebody's...
I do it in class, but in a different way. So in the class setting, when it's all these people and they've come to do the workshop, is this going to pick up on my stomach growling?
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
My stomach's growling. Yeah. I guess those 2 grapefruits didn't really tie me over.
We have those apple Chinese tarts. We can grab you one after if you want.
A Chinese tart?
I don't know what they are. Erica brought them.
Oh, wow.
She brought those?
Jesus.
Yeah, but they're awesome.
Good.
So in the workshop setting, I don't, because like I said, I won't go into somebody without being asked. It's kind of like not walking into someone's house unless you're led in the door. So in the workshop setting, I'm tapping into the collective mind and observing the fluctuations that are happening in the webbing of collective mind. And workshops are really powerful because the collective mind allows for a greater acceleration of information to be processed, because it can be processed through the whole body of the group. So in a collective, like a workshop, that's how I'm working, to create releases or shifts in consciousness. And in one-on-one sessions, it's more individual. So if they ask for my help, then I will start to kind of track different vibrations in their body and talk to them about it. It's not, I don't lie them down and do anything with my hands or anything. It's just literally tapping in and tracking and saying, okay, do you feel this thing right now? And they'll be like, yeah, I feel that. I'm like, okay. And I'll have them describe it to me and then say, and can you feel the reaction you're having to it, for example? And they'll say, yeah, I feel that. And I'll have them tell me about that. And I'll say, okay, can you feel the thoughts that are being generated by these sensations, or the sensations that are being generated by the thoughts, and so on and so forth? And just bringing awareness to these different layers. It's just like different layers. Imagine your whole body is made up of little threads, and they're all in different layers, like thousands or millions of different little layers. And so bringing the light of your consciousness to each one of these little layers, it simply just releases and mobilizes whatever's stuck there. And I look at everything like this, everything. I look at every being just like this, that it's possible to just allow these energies that get stuck to remobilize and move. It's just like setting them free. It's like birds in a cage that you've trapped in a cage, and you just open the door and you let them go. But we just don't know how to open the door and let them go, because we've been trained to keep everything in, just to cope and keep our shit together. And the outcome then is a disease or an imbalance at which as to how the energy flows in the most optimal way in our body-mind.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was actually going to get into that term, body mind, and you kind of, I think, got into it there. And just so if I'm understanding correctly, you're describing kind of the spectrum of layers between the body and the mind, and how you said, like, how sensations can generate thoughts, and how thoughts can generate sensations, and that sort of continuum. Is that what you're kind of meaning with when you say body mind?
Yeah, that it's not two things; it's
Right.
one, and they're woven together.
Right.
Just like everything, woven
Right.
together.
Yeah.
Gives us great insight also as to how we are woven together, and everything is woven together. There's no separation. So that this idea of union isn't just like, oh yeah, we are one. It's like, oh, okay. When we develop our relationship with ourselves, and all of the systems that are woven together are one, that gives us actually an ability to begin to comprehend this large idea that the whole thing is one.
Right. That when we compartmentalize things like that, we start dividing them. That's literally starting to create those blocks for the energy.
Right.
Right. Like when you have like, oh, this is my mind and this is my body. Well, then you've blocked it. You've put in a divide. Somehow, I don't know how it all fucking works, but that's, that seems to be what you're doing just by the language, by saying with your conscience, with your intention, I have a body and I have a mind, and like, this is my mind, and like creating that separation, you create the separation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. And that just kind of really hit me in here, like that body mind spectrum. I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of clicked in a new way right now.
Nice.
You're teaching all the time,
Woo.
Megan.
Yeah.
Woo.
Meghan.
There's
I'm
a
just
reason.
vibrating, man. I'm just vibrating over here. Woo, I'm vibrating on kombucha.
Can you feel it, people?
Oh, I'm getting more vibrational moment by moment. I'm going to start gyrating. I really like to gyrate.
You sat still for like
I know.
I know, because I got
45 minutes almost.
I started to go into the channel, guys. You called me in. You called me out from the cuckoo land where I love to exist also.
Yeah. Yeah.
See?
And you're going in to do a workshop tonight at One Yoga for the People, our friends down the road from here at Float House. And so this workshop and your workshops in general, like, this is a 1-day event. This is a 2-hour event. But do you do workshops like intensive that are like weekends and like multi-day things? Or like what's kind of like what's like the ayahuasca version of Meghan Currie? What's like the multi-day like fucking like going through the fire? Do you have something like that you would call?
It doesn't matter how long it is, to be honest. If whether it's a 3-day workshop it does matter in a sense, because if you do a 30-day teacher training with me, it's intense. And the 40-day.
Oh man.
Also.
Yeah. You have a 40-day. Wow.
I do, but I learned a lot of lessons, and so I'm revamping everything and taking time to recalculate and just completely revamp. So cool. I did my first one, and I learned a lot. So I'm going into incubation mode to reconsider everything.
How big of a group is that?
That was 30 people.
Whoa, that's a lot of people.
For 40 days in the jungle.
Wow.
So
that would be intense.
In Nicaragua?
It's like ayahuasca
you must have
crack.
Yeah.
Megawaska.
Megawaska. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But it doesn't really matter. I mean, per se, yes, a 30-day or a 40-day is definitely different, but the incubation that's created in a workshop setting is just as intense of a journey for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when
Yeah.
you were in Vancouver and I was doing your classes fairly regularly, everyone in the class started adopting your style a little bit to the extent that they could. You know, I remember when you're in that transitional phase, when you're kind of coming and going a little bit and then you're kind of gone, there's some teachers that were jumping in to fill your spot and they'd be like, wow, this is so cool because I see Meghan like imprinted on all of you. Just the way the whole class moved.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, neat. The people that were coming all the time, they moved in. Get it. I
mean,
got it.
In a similar, what would you, oh yeah, what do you think I would say?
I just need to shake for a second.
There you go. Okay, good.
We've been sitting for almost half an hour,
I know.
guys.
More,
Blow my
45
mind.
minutes.
No, I can be still.
You floated for 3.5 hours.
I was heartbroken.
So you had to float it out.
I
See,
just floated
that's-
out.
Okay, that's like the cocoon is just going deep into
I had to
this.
cocoon because
Yeah.
I knew my patterns then and knew that my patterns and my ways of coping were not the answer, and they didn't help me to more deeply understand why this kind of heartbreak is even happening. So yeah, I committed to going into it as much as I could.
I was
for you.
impressed. Yeah, for the first float a couple years ago, you were in there for, you did a double.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I was
good.
like, guys, I'm coming to Vancouver. Give me 5 3-hour sessions.
Yeah, you did.
It's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was pretty devastated. So
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
in a good way.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like you were saying before, like in the darkness or the harder times, it's all a part of it. You know, it's all going to play its role in the evolution of one's life.
Yeah.
You know? So
Totally.
super cool. Where are you going after this?
Monday, I fly to Amsterdam for a week, and then to I feel like I tell people like 4 times a day, and still I have to think about it. After Amsterdam, then Barcelona for a week, and then Cologne for a week, or 10 days, 14 days or something, because they have a nude bathhouse there, and I really love it. So I booked extra time there.
Nice.
They have a float tank, but it's like you share it with other naked people.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
They're so
You guys
progressive.
should maybe
They're so
consider.
progressive over
They
there.
do couples floats in some places if you have a big enough
Oh, do
cabin.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We could turn this whole room into like we could do these things while floating together.
It's true.
podcast.
There's like a concept room. Do you see that picture that was going around online? It was really cool. Somebody had like it was like almost like a basement kind of, but the basement was flooded and they had cool blue lights and salt rocks everywhere. And there was a giant
like
float room,
like a grotto
And there was
kind
like, yeah, but multiple people could just go
Yeah.
and float around.
Yeah, we could have like some kind of canoe in the middle where we record the podcast, and then there's
Yeah.
like naked people just bobbing around, going through their shit. I think it would be really good for your company.
The viewership,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I know we could have like the sky
Viewers,
cam
yeah.
going. You know,
Yeah.
we could like pay,
Yeah.
to watch people float.
No, God.
No, that'd be bad.
Pay to watch.
Pay
Online viewership.
Yeah, online
God,
viewership
of course, this
of
is getting dirty, guys, because I'm here.
Yeah.
This is the other aspect of me.
You
See,
draw it
the two
out.
opposites.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Dirty and clean.
So when did you come to BC? Because you're from Ontario originally, right?
I hitchhiked out here. I got a ride with a cookie truck driver.
Cookie
What a
truck.
nice guy.
Vortman's cookie. You know, like the windmill cookie?
Oh,
I got a ride. Yeah, he was a nice guy.
was it a big truck, like a big 18-wheeler?
Huge,
kind of truck?
like
Okay.
the biggest, with
Yeah.
all of the gears, like 24 gears or whatever. I
Whoa,
don't know what it
yeah.
is. So he drove me all the way out to BC when I was 17.
Wow.
And then I backpacked out here because I was looking for hippies. I was desperate for hippies. I just wanted to find the hippies.
Why did you want to find the hippies?
I don't know. I just have always wanted to find the hippies. I've always been drawn to hippies. I think because, the mentality, I was obsessed with my parents. They had the Woodstock record. I was just obsessed with that era, obsessed with the music and obsessed with hippies. But I came out here and I was quite devastated because what I found was that I didn't find the heart. I didn't find the hippies that I was expecting. It was
Were
my
there
own.
some hippies?
Gotcha.
The hippies I actually met were the old hippies. Those are the real ones that
Right.
the real hippies, the real hippies, whatever, real fake hippies.
The originals.
My little
the OGs.
my little bubble dream of the hippies. So I hitchhiked across, and then I met this amazing Portuguese woman, and we hung out, and then I stayed in BC, and I went back a month late for school, and then when I was done high school, I moved to Nicaragua for like a year, And after that, I moved to BC. So I was 21, I think, or 20 when I moved here.
Wow. So you lived in Nicaragua by yourself at like 19 years old for a year?
I
Wow.
lived in Managua, the capital city, in a what's it called when you share a home with the locals?
Guest house? Hostel?
Wasn't a hostel, it was their house, but there's a name for that. I forget.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, wow,
Yeah.
that
It's like
was
Airbnb,
that was like
but
the
back in
hardest
the
moment
day.
of the
It was
day.
really hard.
Whew,
What is
whew.
that called?
Don't
I
squeeze your
know.
brain too hard.
Yeah.
No, it was like a local, like a little shack, basically. There was like a teeny tiny kitchen the size of this room, and I had a bedroom, but there was like 10 people staying in the house.
Wow.
And I was teaching English to a group of people from the age of like 18 to 45. There was like 25 people in the class. And Managua, I couldn't go for walks because it was dangerous. So anyway, it was really intense. So I quit and I moved to Granada, which is a colonial city in Nicaragua. And I worked and lived at a hostel named the Bearded Monkey. And had a whole bunch of experiences. And
Nice.
And then from there to Vancouver.
from there, actually, I traveled more. I worked on a travel show for a while, so I got taken around places around the world and hosted the show, and then came to Vancouver.
What was the show?
The show was called Alternate Routes.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was a cool show for sure.
Yeah.
About backpackers.
Nice.
And then I came back to Ontario, and my friends hooked me up with this old couple named Rosie and Al, and their son Bill, and their dog Hooch. And they needed someone to drive a car across Canada out west to BC. So I drove Bill's ex-boyfriend's car. It was an Audi. Audi? How do you say it right?
Audi.
Yeah.
How do you say it right?
You got it.
Audi?
Audi, I
I
think.
drove their Audi with Rosie, and Bill and Hooch and Al drove the camper van. So we all drove together like a big happy family across the country.
Convoy.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And you came out here. And when did you start practicing yoga?
I started practicing yoga the first class I did was in Costa Rica when I was 19. I bought a bicycle and rode it to Costa Rica from Nicaragua, met a woman and took her class. But in BC, I think I was here for about 6 months or something, and then I met a woman who became a really good friend of mine, and she introduced me to yoga, essentially, and I would go every day, and it was some of the happiest memories in my life. Just so good.
And how quickly did you pick it up? Like, were you a natural?
I think, my first teacher, her name is Nancy Goodfellow, and she lives I don't know where she lives right now, but she was in Costa Rica. I just remember her vaguely saying that maybe she was surprised it was my first time, but I think it felt natural, kind of like normal to me. Not everything,
Yeah, well,
really normal, but
I mean, it's very rare to find somebody who can do the kind of things that you can do in yoga. And if you're listening to this, go check out YouTube Meghan Currie's videos right now. It's YouTube Meghan Currie, and you're going to see some really cool, creative stuff. It's art, basically.
Yeah,
it's art with your body. You know,
the beautiful thing. Thank you. That's what that's the highest compliment ever, because that's really what I want to do here on this earth, is just create beauty and create art. And but what was I going to say? Oh, my brain's running all over the place.
Creating art.
But you had
videos,
said
movement.
videos. But it's amazing. I was going to say with the widespread of social media now, that it spreads the seeds of movement to the whole world, and now everybody seems to be moving in this amazing way, and it's happened very quickly.
Yeah,
not necessarily moving in the same way as me or someone else, but like everyone is moving in a really dynamic way.
Yeah, like what's your that's kind of what I wanted to get to. You've been going around the world. Like what's your point of view? Like how do you see human consciousness unfolding? Like what's your level of optimism and all that kind of stuff? Because there's a lot of dark out there as well, right? There's a lot of dark forces happening. But from your perspective, your point of view, what do you see the next 20, 30 years unfolding like? I want you to go into that crystal ball and be like, oh, I don't know.
I don't necessarily predict any way that it will unfold. If I go inside of myself, I'm just called to stay inside of myself, like to stay centered in the self and to work for the highest inside of myself. And then that in turn has a profound shifting effect, a hugely profound shifting effect upon the whole organism. The entire organism is affected when we really go inside and we work with ourselves. We develop these relationship with ourselves and our cells and all of the intelligence that we're made of. So as far as predicting how everything else is going to unfold, I don't really have a prediction or foresight.
It seems like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, awareness is growing quite a bit now, especially in Vancouver. Vancouver is such a hotbed for it. And I guess you're seeing it probably throughout the world as well when you go around teaching. Would you say that it is, I guess it's not as evolved in every place that it is in Vancouver, but would you say it's kind of spreading outward?
I would say that it's everywhere for sure. It's funny how you say not as evolved though, because it's really interesting. It could be really, dense in certain places around the world. There could be the most yoga or the yoga studios it could be a highly densely populated area, but that doesn't necessarily mean like anything about the evolution. It depends on what's kind of being taught or channeled in that particular region as far as the kind of level of or frequency of evolution that's taking place in that area. So
I meant kind of like the evolution of just like what we see going on with like in that whole sphere of like, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, that whole trend that we see going on kind of everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, evolved in that way.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, it's definitely absolutely everywhere. I go to tiny little towns in Germany and the USA and they're packed and it's beautiful. And as far as to answer your question in the other way, the way that the world is unfolding from this perspective is amazingly that the levels of people's awareness are rising for sure, and that meditation and yoga and its popularity is having a really profoundly beautiful effect upon everyone.
If you had a magic wand and you could just wave it.
I have one.
You have one? Well, then do it right now.
It's busy right now.
It's busy? Okay. What, if you could change one thing and you could wave a wand to change whatever you wanted to, what would that be?
Oh, these questions, these kinds of questions.
Dog barks.
I know the dog barks. I was always aware of that dog barking too.
Maybe there's nothing to change.
Maybe not. I guess there's lots of things that I would change, but what I'm doing right now is I'm really looking for the root. Not for just not to band-aid something or, fix one thing, but what's the root? What is really the root? And the root is in us. So if it could be for everyone to have the insight and the opportunity and like the desire to want to go inside a little deeper, to start to look at. So if every person in the whole wide world suddenly had this like urge to go inside and look at all of the cause and effect happening within them, that would be what would, alter the external and what we see and how everything is unfolding currently with, everything that's mishmashing and jammy.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. This, I guess, having more people having the opportunity, to go inside and explore those things. I mean, there's so many parts of the world where I'm not sure how we're doing for time. 6, you got to go soon.
Yeah.
you know, where a lot of people, if you're kind of starving and you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, you know, how much time can you dedicate to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wishing people the ability to, to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's oddly, and I don't know how people will respond to this, but it's more the people that are so lost in this false idea of power that I feel are really deep in illusion. And for them to have an opportunity to go in and to like really, really see and experience themselves and start to experience their inner landscape a little bit more deeply. To be guided inward, if somehow they could be guided inward to experience the roots of everything that's external in their life, and then that would have a profound shift as well. I don't know, we tend to always use the starving people as an example, yet we don't even know what it's like to be, you know, in that position necessarily. And just having traveled into many very fortunate areas and non-fortunate areas, the joy that is there is real. You know, the connection that's there is real. It's real. And that's real life. That's real love. And at the end of the day, that's what really matters. So I can't say that they're less fortunate. You know, and I mean, yes, starvation.
I hear what you're saying.
And I would love to wave a wand and feed everybody in the whole wide world, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I daydream about being the richest woman on earth just so I could, like, you know, fix all the problems. But at the end of the day, again, that wish is one that is still external.
Mm-hmm. And actually, that's not, and like you said before, that's not going to the root.
Yeah.
The root is the individuals. The root is the inside, you know, and that's all that you can truly have an influence over, like for real, is your inside. You can externally influence for sure to a degree, but they have to then turn inwards on themselves. Like you can't do that for them.
Yeah. But something really powerful has come to, is just, I'm being taught these days, and that the subtle is more powerful than the material, and that the more we can connect with the most subtle part of our experience and shift into that mode, then the higher our transmission becomes. So the effects of this are that if, say, you know, you are tuned to a high vibration right now because you've been accessing these places within, accessing the most subtle realms that you can experience within yourself, not anybody else, just within yourself, and it's your experience, and you go journeying inside, that when, say, you enter a room, you charge the room. You literally charge the room. The more you start to clear out the old files or the paperwork or whatever it is inside, that it has a higher density. So it has a density then that is like heavier, let's say, or lower vibration. So when we start to do our own paperwork, our frequency raises, and we walk into a room. You walk into a city, you have an effect upon the city. We can't see these things, you know, or, I mean, we can see these things. We have the ability to see these things. It's not something that's unseeable, and this is definitely where we're going as a species, humans, is to refining our senses, to becoming more sensitive, to be able to start to like really tap in and see some of these things that have previously been considered unseeable or unknowable or not real, or voodoo, magic, whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I really like how you kind of brought it to the other end of the spectrum, and you're like the people who are so drunk on power, potentially on money, materialism, all those people, that like they're potentially more lost than anybody else, right? Yeah.
And I've been there. I mean, maybe I've never been a millionaire, but I mean in a way that's been relevant to me and what I've had. You know, I've been drunk on power too. I believe we've all been within our own spectrum, because we all have different spectrums, but all been to the sides of we've touched the sides of our spectrum. Mm-hmm. And so we've all kind of experienced what the feeling, you know, the starvation or, you know, drunk on power, and then the places in between in different ways. So I've been there also, and I know that it doesn't, you know, but we have to touch the sides in order to know where it is, and where the middle is, or what the limits are, what the threshold is, and what's possible.
Totally.
Well, that's
well
awesome.
done.
See, we
Yeah.
can keep going. That's the thing. We're at an hour and it's by like that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Now I'm like, okay, let's go. More kombucha.
Yeah.
Smash another
I
one.
know. Well,
Cool.
next time come and we'll do like a 3-hour podcast.
Whoa.
We'll just bang it out. Yeah.
Bang it.
So it's MeghanCurrie.com online.
It's actually MeghanCurrieYoga.com. Actually, no, it's Meghan
Fire me.
Currie. Remember how you said my
Oh,
name?
yeah. CURRIE yoga.com. MeghanCurrieYoga.com. Social media, Meghan Currie, all the handles, right?
Meghan Currie Yoga, I think.
Oh, is it all Meghan Currie Yoga?
I think so.
Okay. Instagram
Or I
Just
guess
put in
Facebook.
Meghan Currie Yoga
Facebook.
into YouTube and you will be led on the
and
right
YouTube.
path.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Check it out. And if you're, listening to another city, check her tour or whatever, like your schedule is, see, maybe she'll be in your zone and go and definitely take advantage of meeting Meghan because she's epic.
Yeah,
You're
I
epic.
just to say,
So-
I knew when you were here when I was taking your classes consistently, I'm like, just from taking your classes, I'm like, I knew that you weren't going to be here for that long. I was like, you're going to be gone. You're going to be somewhere else for, I don't know. I'm not sure when that was going to happen, but I'm like, when I had you as a teacher, I'm like, just enjoy having her as a teacher now because eventually she's going to be somewhere else. So, and that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Yep.
So thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys
Appreciate
for having
it.
me. This has been really awesome, and I wish
Cool.
we had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
I actually just want more kombucha. No, I'm joking.
no, we'll hook you up.
Well, we got lots of kombucha.
Yeah,
Cool.
this has been
We're good.
lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Till next time,
To whatever is.
do whatever is.